Hello everyone, let's talk trigonometry. I'm going to work through a few questions from the Eastern Cape November 2022 Maths Paper 2. This is the grade 11 final exam. And if we're looking at 6.1, they have given us some information here. They're saying if negative 3 sine beta minus 2 is equal to 0, and then also beta is an element of 0 to 270 degrees. Now guys, this means that beta, the angle, has to be between 0 and 270. Now for that to happen, if we're drawing our Cartesian plane, remember this is 0, this is 90, this is 180, and this is then 270. If they are saying between 0 and 270, that means that this angle has to either lie in quadrants 1 or 2 or 3. Remember, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that is 4. Now, I'm going to have to draw a triangle here, right? They're saying use a sketch in the correct quadrant to determine the value of 1 plus tan squared beta without a calculator. Now guys, the fact that they're saying without a calculator means that we can't use a calculator to find the value of beta, right? I've seen that happening a lot. People will solve for beta here using the calculator, using shift sign. But the question very clearly states without a calculator. So we need to use the given information to identify the correct quadrant, like they said. Okay, so between 0 and 270 has to be quadrants 1, 2, or 3. Now we're going to have to make sine beta the subject in this equation, because that will tell us, is sine positive, is it negative? That will give us an idea of what our quadrant is going to be here. So first I'm going to move the negative 2 over, or I'm adding 2 to both sides to get rid of that negative 2, so I'm left with that. Now I need to divide by negative 3. So I'm left with negative 2 over 3. So sine is negative. Now in which quadrants are sine negative? In quadrants 3 and 4. So that means that the third quadrant is the only quadrant that satisfies this condition and the interval of angles that was given. So we are now going to have to draw a triangle, a sketch, in quadrant 3. Now usually when I do my sketches, I will not really draw a full quadrant for the others. I'll just kind of draw a full quadrant for quadrant 3 or the quadrant that I'm meant to be using. So over there, and I'm just going to draw a right angle triangle, and then from there I'm going to use my ratio that I have here for sine to actually fill in the sides of this triangle. Guys, we know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? So 2 is meant to be the opposite side, and 3 is meant to be the hypotenuse. Now one of these is going to have to be negative because sine is negative. This fraction is negative. Now the hypotenuse is always positive. So that means that our hypotenuse is going to have a length of 3 and the opposite side is going to have a length of negative 2. Now guys, even if the other side was not the hypotenuse, we need to know that if the side of this triangle is below the x-axis, right? So underneath the x-axis, so underneath this line here, that side is going to have to be negative. It's not the length of the side that's negative. It's just in terms of working with an angle in the third quadrant like we have here. In order for us to get a negative value for sine, which we have to, right, in quadrant 3, this side has to be negative. The x side as well, this one over here, is also going to be negative because it is on the negative side of the x-axis. All values that you get here in this highlighted part are negative. So when we now calculate the length of that side using Pythagoras, our answer is going to be negative. So I'm just going to write here x squared is equal to, remember, hypotenuse squared minus the other side squared. Very important, you have to write Pythagoras. And you are unfortunately not allowed to just write Pythag. You have to write Pythagoras. So there we go. The answer here, 9 minus 4 is 5. So x is then plus or minus the square root of 5. But like I said already, since this triangle is in quadrant 3, our x value here in relation to the diagram that we have is going to be negative root 5. Again, the length of the side is positive, but the side of the triangle in terms of trigonometry and in terms of it being in the third quadrant is going to have to be negative. Now that we have this triangle, we can use the triangle to find the value of 1 plus tan squared beta, because we all know, hopefully, that tan is opposite over adjacent. So in this triangle, the opposite side is negative 2 and the adjacent side is negative root 5. So we are going to have negative 2 over negative root 5. You can leave those minuses out in the beginning already if you see that they're going to cancel out. Or if you just see that we are squaring this whole fraction, so everything is going to be positive. So we are left with 1 plus 4 over 5 if we square both of those. And that is then equal to 9 over 5.